The fear of the unknown is a very effective way to scare an audience in horror. And in my opinion, this is by far some of the scariest ways to actually get into an audience member's head and actually make them physically terrified, and also, more importantly, psychologically terrified of what is actually going down on screen. Because little did you know, there's a certain saying called showing less is showing more, almost, because we see a lot in horror nowadays, especially in psychological horror, that sometimes not showing the audience member what is actually going down on screen with a certain scene can actually make it more effective, as it leaves it up to audience members' own interpretation of what is actually going down in the scene. And that is why, in my opinion, Skinamarink is one of the best examples of horror in most recent years when it comes to psychological horror. Because not only does it deal with certain topics that actually can very much affect an audience member psychologically, it's the fact that the scenes that go down in this film are so unexpected and you don't actually see exactly what's going on makes this movie 10 times scarier and, in my opinion, 10 times more effective. And that is why, in my opinion, Skinamarink creates one of the best horror villains of all time with the Entity. And this is the best part about this, because this entity can be anything a viewer imagines it. Spoilers for Skinamarink, by the way. By the end of the film, all we see of this entity is a blank face covered by distortion and sort of like a VHS type filter, leaving it up to audience interpretation of what is actually staring back at them in this closing scene. Not only does this scene captivate the audience, it really puts them on edge, because as someone who watches a lot of analog horror, and Skinamarink is kind of the main blockbuster analog horror out there, it's like the main, feature film that you can watch when it comes to analog horror. And so the fact that this scene makes me so uncomfortable really, really did impress me, as I didn't expect to feel this way whatsoever. And the way this scene plays out is just magnificent, because you're expecting something to happen, as for a solid 30 seconds this entity is just staring back at you as an audience member, basically, making direct eye contact with the viewer, and it is absolutely terrifying, because all you can think of is, from nowadays, movies and horror films, is you're expecting a jump scare. Every time I go into a modern day horror film now, all I'm expecting is, we're gonna have a few jump scares. Jump scare, jump scare, jump scare. Conjuring franchise. That is some of the problem with today's film when it comes to horror films, is that there's too many, fake jump scares. But Skinamarink completely flips that on its head. The fact that nothing actually happens towards the end of the scene makes this scene so much more effective, as it just kind of makes the audience feel so much more uncomfortable, because you're expecting something to happen and all of a sudden nothing does. And it's just amazing. And the fact that this movie is the definition of fear of the unknown makes this 10 times scarier. And leading on from my point earlier of the fear of the unknown, I think leading up to viewer interpretation is a great way of, making horror more effective. As to me, when you kind of just show everything, it's just shown and shown and shown, it kind of, yes, it can be very effective when it comes to being shown, but it also can somewhat diminish it, and people might go, oh, well, they could have done this and made it more, more effective. But when you just show a cutaway and you use the sound effects, and that is what this film does perfectly, is sound effects. When it comes to a certain scene in this film where it comes to the mother going into a closet, you don't see nothing. You can't even tell there's another actor or actress in this scene. But all you hear is the cracking of bones and growling and groaning from this closet. You're actually thinking in your head, what is actually going down in this scene? Like, what is actually going on with this character? The best comparison I can think of is Pennywise when he came out of the fridge, when he's all like twisted up and he like untwists himself and you see it. Yes, that is really, really cool. But when it comes to this scene, the fact you can't actually see what's going on puts it into viewer interpretation of, oh my god, what is actually cracking here? What part of this woman's body is actually crackling and all this groaning? What's it coming from? And that is, in my opinion, 10 times more effective and scary. And the fact that just after this scene, it goes back to complete normality. What I've just been witnessed upstairs, these kids kind of just go downstairs, watch TV and cartoons like nothing has happened, when us as a viewer, it's kind of like, yo, there's a genuine entity upstairs in your house right now that has just taken the form of your mum and made cracking sounds in your closet, and you're normal with that. To us as a viewer, that is so scary, and the fact that you don't know what's going on makes it 10 times more effective. And like, this entity in Skinamarink is unbelievable. I love the fact that it's, again, up to viewer interpretation, to where you actually can't tell what's going on, and that is what I love about this film. Yes, it's a slow burner, but in my opinion, I like that. It makes it more effective. Again, leading up to viewer interpretation is so vital for you to enjoy this film. I feel like that is what let it down in the ratings online and stuff, because if you do look at ratings, this film got torn apart. But if you are open-minded to horror and like creative horror, you're going to love this film, especially if you love analog horror. If you love analog horror, you're going to absolutely have a blast with this film. But to me, I feel like this way of horror is definitely new to the genre, and that is why it wasn't so well received, because we don't see it on a main, motion picture standard. You kind of only see it in the likes of YouTube videos nowadays. And I feel like it did take this one film, Skinamarink, to break that, divide of, actually, you know what, we're going to make a full feature length motion picture of analog horror and see how it goes. And we need that in the horror genre, because we have so much repetitiveness, and I feel like this is the film that can finally take that leap forward to inspire other maybe analog horror creators to go and make their own movie. I mean, you even see it now with the movie being made of The Backrooms by A24 and Kane Pixels. Like, Kane Pixels just made a random animation online, which is really, really good and effective, and showed a good, atmospheric type horror, which is what Skinamarink is. It's very atmospheric, but actually showing the monster in The Backrooms. But the fact that a huge studio like A24 has picked up this concept and go, yo, this is actually a cool concept, we're going to give you the funds to go and direct this film. Like, that is a huge deal. From the likes of X, Pearl, soon to be Maxine, and also Talk to Me, very, very world-renowned movies now. The fact that a analog horror series is being turned into this sort of movie of this stature is huge. And I do feel like it did take something like Skinamarink to break the mesh and break the divide, to actually go and create this sort of inspiration to go, you know what, you have this series, there you go, inspire others and keep producing this type of content, which can further on their careers as movie makers. And that is so inspirational. And Kyle Edward Ball, like, man, he's so talented. Like, if you actually watch Skinamarink in that sort of mindset of, okay, I'm going to watch this film as a sort of, director perspective, if you obviously are expecting a masterpiece in this film, you're not going to like it. You just have to sit down and enjoy it, because it is a very, very slow film. I will say that straight up. It's a very slow film, but trust me, just give it a chance, and I guarantee you'll love it. And the fact that this entity is so mysterious is why I think it's honestly perfect, because it can literally be anything, and that is what is so terrifying. But that is all I have for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you did enjoy. Let me know what you have thought of Skinamarink if you have watched it in the comments below, and if you haven't watched it and do have access to Shudder, I think that's where it's mainly on streaming services at the moment. I don't know if it's on DVD. I have it on Shudder anyway. But if you haven't watched it and have access to it, and you are going to go watch it after this video, come back after you've watched it and let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. But thank you all so much for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to smash the like button down below, and if you do like horror content or horror analysis, make sure to smash that subscribe button. I'd really, really appreciate it. So thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have an amazing day, stay safe, and peace. First shot of this episode, Tammy picks this house.
Oh, what about that one?
Now, if you ask me, that is the, worst house you can pick. It has wallpaper on the outside.